No opening. I look forward to the questions. Thanks for coming. It's important. I just got done with a retirement with an old shipmate of mine from the submarine forces. I thought it was a great opportunity to come to an all-hands call on the Truman. So it is like a bit of a homecoming for me. Get back in my two-piece organizational clothing, get out of the Pentagon a little bit. And so I really appreciate all of you. I look forward to your questions.
So we'll start with culture. Culture question from you from WTKR.
Yeah, Admiral, what would you say are your priorities now as Chief of Naval Operations?
Well, the priorities that I've kind of laid out early on as part of my transition lie into three bins. And I typically call those our foundry, our fleet, and the way we fight. And so the foundry is a bring up from Norfolk up to the Pentagon. The compilation of all of our infrastructure, our schoolhouses, our piers, and everything that it takes to support the generation of force, including our people. And I'll come back to that in just a second. The fleet, I'm talking to the fleet today. Okay, so you're looking at one of the capital ships that really is the hallmark of our main fighting formation, which is the aircraft carrier and the support ships, and all the ships that support our global operations. And then the way we fight, of course, is all the doctrine, the actual procedures, the tactics, and all the things that we need to actually conduct the actual conflict operations that we can do, and we do so well. At the heart of the foundry, and I've made no bones about this, I will make sailors first. And that is what I learned in my job at Fleet Forces, is the quality of service of our sailors means the most to me of anything I'm going to do. So that just spans an enormous amount of things that I want to get put in place to make sure the things that we've done already are sticky and that they're still being effective. You can think of sailor pay would be one of those, that those are still on time, to getting sailors off ships, which is very important to me. The quality of work and the things we do in the shipyards is very important to me. And so that foundry piece with sailors first will be a primary objective of mine.
Mike Beatty, fresh off your embark aboard USS Ohio,
Mike,
let's go over to you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, sir. Congratulations. Thanks a lot. One of the things you were talking about fleet a lot was readiness. So, and one of the things you're talking about was making sure that, we have the ships ready to go out there, at almost like 80%, not 100%. Are you going to carry it over CNO? And how far that will that go? In other words, is that for all kinds of classes? How far are you looking to do that?
Absolutely, it would be carried over. It's part of our global maritime response plan that 80% of our non-deployed force and non-depot maintenance force is ready to surge. So those definitions of what it means to be combat surge ready will hold, and we will shoot for that. It's a goal. We're not there yet with all the communities of practice. Submarine force is close. Our surface Navy is not far either, but it will extend to aircraft carriers and air wings. So it's, I think, a responsibility of the expeditionary force of the joint force, which is our Navy, to have that combat surge ready capability to give the President options on short notice. We see that being used during my time here at Fleet Forces. I know it will continue to be used in my time as Chief of Naval Operations. So yes, I intend to keep that in place. I think it's important. And that has to be underwritten with the things I'm doing across what we call PESTO. Getting people, gaps at sea corrected, getting ordnance deliveries done on time, making sure our sailors are trained to the, the right level. So all that has to be in place to make that combat surge ready definition whole.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go back to the broadcast side over to Wavy.
Yeah, so you recently spoke about your desire to increase production on Virginia-class submarines. Can you speak a little bit on that? How much are you looking to increase production, and why exactly is that important?
Well, it's extremely important. I look forward to working, with the Secretary of the Navy on shipbuilding in general, first of all. And that's all classes, to deliver these ships on time, for the things that we have under contract, to get them delivered on cost and on schedule. That's what we owe the American people. In specific for submarines, we have a goal to build 2.3 submarines a year. We're building about, 1.2 submarines a year. So as I said in my confirmation hearing, this is a 100% improvement required. I don't think that can be done with incremental change. This is transformative change that needs to be done to do that. So there's going to have to require a lot of creativity and innovation, and all hands on deck approach to bringing in more partners to help our two primary yards, Electric Boat at General Dynamics and Newport News Shipbuilding and Huntington Ingalls, to get to that level of production. The only way we'll ever make good on the AUKUS agreement is we get to the 2.3, and it is my goal to make good on that.
Sam?
Just to follow up on some of the changes that might be coming with you as CNO. Are you thinking about like reorganizing kind of op-nav? Are you looking at kind of some changes in how things are done? Because we've seen a couple of pretty radical changes within the last couple of weeks. The DERPM subs that's going to report directly to DEP, SACDEP, and then the reorganization of kind of all of the Navy innovation things to the NROC. Like, is there more stuff coming from y'all from the CNO perspective?
Well, Sam, thanks for being here, first of all, and thanks for that question. Yes, I am looking at how I want to reduce the number of direct reports to the Chief of Naval Operations. I currently have a number, something between 34 to 37 direct reports. I think anyone who knows anything about organizational theory knows that number is not something that I really can command and control from one office and one person. So how I bend the actual organizational structure is something I'm looking hard at right now. That includes the OPNAV staff itself and all the folks that report to me directly from the Syscoms is part of that roll up to these indirect folks that report to the CNO as well. So I look forward to talking with the Secretary of the Navy on that and see how we can tighten that up a bit so that my span of control is effective. So I can spend time what I need to be doing on the things that I need to do. That will require empowering some people differently and giving them more responsibilities, and how that lash up will look, and that work is in progress, but you can expect to see some changes there.
Hiding in the back, I see Ben Finley from the Associated Press. So Ben, over to you.
Thank you. Admiral, I was wondering, would it be possible to talk about the ships that we're sending into the Caribbean? Is that something we could talk about?
I'll mention it generally, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. I will just say that, it goes right to the heart of why we have a Navy. We train and certify our combat forces to do global operations. And so we typically know where they're going during that certification process, but they certainly are able to go do other things if called upon. So you're seeing naval forces down in support of Southern Command with Venezuelan operations and missions that I won't speak to any of those operations because one, it would quickly get into something classified, but two, the point of me as the Chief of Naval Operations is to give combatant commanders forces that they can employ to give the President and Secretary of Defense options. So, this is just a perfect example of why a Navy and how we do our business the way we do to give Southern Command the forces they need to do these new missions.
Thank you. Jason, I know you're shooting, but do you have a question?
No, yeah, I do, actually. And first and foremost, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Why did you decide to come out here to the Truman, back here in Norfolk? Why was this the command that you wanted to come and visit to do this today?
Well, I can't say that there was any kind of grand master plan on that, first of all. I can tell you I'm here to celebrate the retirement of a dear friend who was my weapons officer when I was the commanding officer of Jefferson City, Captain Craig Gummer. But while I'm here, I'm going to make good use of the time. And so I like to speak to as many people as I can. And so when we look to see who was available on the waterfront and where I could make an impact, then Truman was a great choice. Truman's just gotten back from a long deployment, a lot of things going on. She's about to move into a complex reactor overhaul and refueling operation. And I think it's a great time to give them a pep talk so they're ready to go do that very important mission to get that ship refueled.
And Jason, we'd love you to use that shout out to Captain Gummer. So.
I got you.
Steve, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. Admiral, I know you can't say everything about what's going on with the border mission, but you have talked a lot about how that Homeland Security is part of the Navy's mission. We see the number of ships coming out of here, including the USS Iwo Jima ARC. They're heading south. What is that mission, and why haven't we heard more about what's going on down there?
Well, other than what's in the open press, which I'll reiterate, is the concern of Venezuelans being part of greater cartel operations. So, to stay at the unclassified level, again, like I said, my job is to ensure that fleet forces actually and PAC Fleet is part of this as well. You're saying Pacific Forces too. Gives the Secretary of Defense and Admiral Halsey the forces they need to conduct operations in Southern Command's area of responsibility.
Is this separate from the border mission?
Hold on. We're going to do one question for each for everybody here. So now we've done everybody once. Are there follow-ups from anybody else here? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I one just for follow up on what we were talking earlier. In getting this fleet together ready, one of the things that was happening before is this idea of we're going to take some of the older ships and see if we can extend their lives. We talked about Ohio class, you talked about some of the carriers. Is that something you can continue to do too? Is there any ship class that's kind of off limits, like the cruisers? Or
Say it again, Mike. I missed the very beginning. I want to make sure I get the question.
I'm trying to get an idea of whether or not you can look and extend the lives.
Oh, extend the lives.
Right. Yes.
I don't have any current knowledge that's any different than when I've taken over on any service life extension programs, other than the early berks that are in place, other than a few select Ohio class that we've picked to actually extend the life to ensure that the transition to Columbia is on track, and then the refueling operations we're doing with a select number of Los Angeles class. Those are the ones that I when I moved up to the CNO office with, those are the ones that are still on the table. I don't know of any new ones.
Back to the top culture, anything? Anything? Ben?
Would it be possible to talk about, there was a report that Naval Station Great Lakes might assist ICE in their operations? Is that something you can talk
I
about?
think that's outside the scope of what we're talking about here, Ben. Sam, anything else?
Yeah, so in terms of, providing the additional support to AUKUS, is there anything you're thinking about doing differently, or is it early days, or where are you all at on that?
With AUKUS in particular?
Yes,
Well, I just had an opportunity to meet with my good friend Mark Hammond, who's the Chief of Navy for Australia, and he recognizes it's important for us making good on both Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 of the AUKUS agreement. The United States government and the Department of Defense is looking hard at that agreement. What can we do to actually make sure we honor that? Is the capacity of the 2 yards I mentioned able to produce that? And what creative things we need to do to increase the production of submarines so that we can do that? So other than, again, this all hands on deck, increasing shipbuilding production, looking at places where we can do more modularity, looking at places where we can outsource smarter, a call to arms on actually helping those 2 yards be more productive. Those types of things are going to be part of that. The direct report program manager for submarines, as you mentioned, somebody mentioned that. It was you. That's going to be part of that. This tie between this DERPM, if you will, directly tied to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, will give increased authorities to that individual, streamline some of the bureaucracy, and help with this, making acquisition decisions and prioritization decisions to get submarines out on time. That's about getting Columbia out as well as Virginia out.
So with that, guys, we've got about 1,000 sailors on board that are waiting for the CNO to come out.
One more quick one. So real quick, when you first started hearing that you were up for possibly becoming this, why was this a job you wanted? Why is this something you felt you could do?
Well, first, it's an honor of a lifetime to be a naval officer and to be, told you're going to be the Chief of Naval Operations, or at least be nominated for such a position. Why do I think I can do it? I have a 4-decade career that I think has shaped me into being the person who can lead this Navy for the next 4 years. The Navy's got a set of challenges in front of it. It deals with, the gaps at sea. It deals with ordnance production. It deals with shipbuilding challenges. It deals with infrastructure challenges. I think my pedigree is uniquely been built to go take those on. And I think at some level that was maybe recognized. And so when I was asked, I gladly accepted that job by the President and the Secretary of Defense, and I look forward to working with John Phelan, the Secretary of the Navy, to get busy on the things we need to do.
Okay.
Wow, what an honor, to come down back. I feel like I'm at home, back down here in Norfolk. It's so great to be here. It's tremendous to be on Truman, the Lone Warrior. So thank you for spending some time with me. It's not lost on me that all hands calls are pretty disruptive. There's things you're trying to get done. There's a ton on your schedule, a lot left for you to do. So really appreciate you spending some time with me this afternoon. I had a chance to be at a retirement ceremony where I got to ring off a shipmate that served with me when I was in command at Jefferson City. And that was 21 years ago when I was in 05 Command, so quite a while ago. So it was great to see him finally retire and do that. And I thought, hey, I'm down here in Norfolk. I need to see some folks at CNO, and what better ship to come to than the Harry S. Truman. So a lot of you, let me see a show of hands. How many made the last deployment in here? Okay. So you can see the tremendous amount of folks who did not raise their hand. So for those who did, thank you. That was a tough deployment, okay? Combat deployment. So I want to thank you for doing that and all the work that went in for that. But you can see the amount of turnover our ships have and the amount of bench that we have to constantly rebuild. and how important it is that our training and qualification and the standards for all that, how important all that really is. And so as you get new folks on board in this new chapter of the Truman's life, and think about, how you're going to build that bench of the future and for what's coming up, which is arguably one of the most challenging things that a nuclear-powered ship goes through, which is a refueling overhaul. It will not be easy, okay? I was talking to the captain and about your schedule. You're going to get it one more underway, I understand, at least one more substantial underway, in which you get some chance to get out and get some qualifications done. Take full advantage of that. Some of you have qual cards that need to be completed. Some of you have some under instruction watches that need to be stood. Some of you need some things, some practice and proficiency that need to be conducted. So when you get out there, wring out every ounce of at-sea time that you can, so that you leave, that at-sea period and come back here before you start that RCOH qualified to the maximum extent possible. So that's what I ask of you to think about. As CNO, I made a decision when I was asked to be the Chief of Naval Operations. I got the call, and it's just a thing you can't think about even ever occurring as an officer, and you're doing your job, you're trying to be a fleet commander in my case, and I get the call actually from Admiral Kilby, who was the acting CNO at the time, and we're good friends. He was my deputy at Fleet Forces, and he said, "Hey, Daryl, the Secretary of Defense has approved your nomination to be the Chief of Naval Operations." And I'm sitting there with my wife, Donna, who's with me today, and my jaw dropped because I just didn't see that coming. And so it's a tremendous honor to be in this position. And I think what I want to impress upon you today is the person who has spent probably the least amount of time in the Pentagon, probably of any CNO possible, that it is my job to carry what I see day to day that happens on the waterfront of that 5-sided building. So with all my heart and all my passion, I've got a window of opportunity before I get transformed into, what is Washington, D.C., to strike while the iron's hot, to put sailors first. And it is my ultimate goal. If you saw my video, I hope you watched it. If you didn't, please do. If you've seen my first aid products, please read them. It is my goal to put sailors first. And what does that really mean, to put sailors first? Every CNO thinks that and tries to do that, but there's a lot of resistance to that because we are geared to put stuff first in the Navy. We just are. We got massive capital ships that are very expensive, like the Truman, like nuclear-powered submarines, like the Kearsarge across the pier. And so we are very capital ship-centric. And so when people think of the Navy, perhaps even more so than any service, what pops in their head is Truman going, all ahead flank, in the ocean, cutting a big wake. F-18s taking off the flight deck. Submarines popping up out of the water. Helicopters hovering over something. And if you think about everything I just said, or Arleigh Burke shooting an SM-6, if you think about everything I said, where was the word sailor in any of that in that visualization? Well, you just don't have it in our minds. Because all of those things are being underwritten by all of you. You're the ones on the flight deck. You're the ones making power and light and electricity. Okay, you're the ones that are making the water and the air. You're the ones that are, making sure the administration of all this apparatus is done right. You're the ones that are making sure the crew comforts are maintained. Either that's the ship store, that's the HVAC systems. Okay, that's the galleys. It all happens by the people standing in front of me. It is my goal as the Chief of Naval Operations to make your life as frictionless as possible. That you're able to get into the base easily. That you've got good accommodations and get you off these ships if you're living on a ship. That you've got Wi-Fi and good high-quality, high-speed Wi-Fi. That you've got nutritious meals that you're eating, okay? And not where I say the nutritious part is a food option. No, the nutritious is the option. It is the food. I want to start treating our sailors like world-class athletes, okay? I'm asking you to go into harm's way. I'm asking you to pull a trigger. I'm asking you to conduct lethal operations. The least I can do is to make sure you're properly trained to the highest levels of mastery. You're competent. That competency translates into confidence, and confidence makes us make bold decisions, okay? And that's what I expect of all of you. I am going to push authority down.
you're going to see it. You're going to see us start operating at a lower level of authority so more decisions are made on the deck plate.